For 27 days, I sat in the same chair in front of the same plastic box. Inside of that box lay my daughter, Annabella, fighting for her life. I couldn't hold her. I couldn't touch her. I couldn't do anything for her. I felt helpless. All I could do was sit and wait. Day 28 came, and a doctor with the words that no parent wants to hear. You know your daughter's going to die, right? No, impossible. I've been sat here all the time. She's doing okay. She's doing fine. But no, she wasn't. And by the end of that day, Annabella would be dead. At just 28 days old, her fight for life was over. And as a father, I'd failed at my main job, keeping my baby girl safe. I don't know what you're going through at the moment or what you've gone through in the past, but have you ever experienced something so overwhelming that to picture yourself on the other side just felt impossible? Before Annabella, our lives were full of hope and happiness. In the aftermath, they were full of darkness and despair. I wanted to escape. I wanted to run away, but my family needed me, so I stayed, trying to hold them together whilst not falling apart myself. But there were days where I questioned if life was even worthwhile living. And that urge to run, that didn't leave. So one day I did. I didn't run away from the situation. I didn't run away from Annabella. I ran for her. You see, it was that time post-COVID where people were doing crazy challenges to raise money for charity. So I thought, this is my chance. This is my chance to finally do something for my baby girl. So I decided on my challenge. 28 marathons in 28 days. One for every day that she'd fought to live. Mate, you haven't even run one marathon, let alone 28 in a row. Chris, to be frank, that's impossible. You're never going to be able to do it. That was the common reaction that I got from friends and family when I told them what I was going to do. So naturally, as a stubborn person, I told more people. I told TV stations, radio stations, anyone who would listen. I was going to run these marathons for my daughter. I was going to raise awareness for baby loss and money for some charities that had helped us along the way. I fully committed. Now I had to do it. So I did some training and I got to the point where I could run a marathon in about 5 or 6 hours. So I felt prepared. And that was until I met the path. You see, in my wisdom, I decided to run along the southwest coast path in England, a beautiful coastal path that ascends majestic cliffs and descends into deserted beaches with crystal waters and white sands. But for running marathons, it was brutal. Those ascents and descents, that was the equivalent of climbing, or in my case, crawling, Everest 4 times. And path, that was a grandiose word for what amounted to no more than a trail. And in some parts, not even that, where it had eroded into the sea. I'd have to find a diversion to get back on track. Other days, I'd be looking around for it and there'd be an arrow just pointing upwards. And I'd find myself scrambling just to get to the next part of the path. It was impossible to run every step of the way. Days were taking me 9, 10 hours. If you'd been there, you would have seen I wasn't running marathons. I was barely surviving them. I started to question myself. I started to doubt whether this was even possible. Am I really honoring Annabella? Or am I just making a fool out of myself? I felt like I was failing her all over again. And just as I was about to give up, it was like the path reached up and held onto my hand and started showing me what it was teaching me. It was teaching me to slow down, to not rush through the process. Embrace the ups and the downs because they're part of the journey. See, life, like the path, it's full of challenges. And when we're going through these challenges, it's like we're connected to an elastic band. Some days we find are easier than others. And then other days are a fight and a struggle just to get through the day. And on other days, you're flown all the way right back to the beginning. You see, the question is not, will you fall? But will you rise? Get up, put one foot in front of another, and keep going. And it was that step by step, day by day, listening to the path, that I was able to complete what I'd set out to do. And finally, I felt like I'd done something for Annabella. When people ask me how I cope with the death of my daughter, I tell them it's not easy, but just as the path taught me, I get up every day, put one foot in front of the other, and I keep going. So let me ask you, what challenges are you facing at the moment? What feels too big, too grand, insurmountable? Don't give up. Listen to your path, and step by step, day by day, you too can endure the impossible.